physical production, physical based markets is a death blow to the suicidal, insane, speculative economies that are running rampant in the West, which only does one thing: creates the largest wealth disparity you could ever imagine. When you divorce a underlying asset from which the stock trades, price discovery, all these things, you create an environment in which there's a wealth extraction, and you create an environment that only the top 0.0001% of oligarchs benefit from and the people suffer from. That's why the rest of the world doesn't want that. When you have a physical economy, you are able to uplift a population. You're able to bring your population up, build them up, and push them forward, and not regress them, not pull them down where we as a society today are just swirling a toilet bowl.
Time for another epic segment with V the Guerrilla right here on ESW.
Hey, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, folks. It's V the Guerrilla Economist coming to you live on this edition of ESW Rogue News. ESW Rogue News. I am your host, the Guerrilla. He is my co-host, the one and only Cowboy. And we're flying high, and we ain't going to lie. We're going to give you all the hard-hitting news and information that you need to hear, things that pertain to you. We'll give you some solutions on what the hell you can do about what's happening in the world and how to profit from it. And also, we want you to check out our paid sponsor, AlgoFactory.tech. AlgoFactory.tech. It is the place where you not only learn how to trade like a hedge fund pro, but also create the algorithms that work on your behalf 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the links are in the description box. It's a free algorithm giveaway. Take advantage of it. Whether the market's up, whether it's down, whether it's crashing, or whether it's thrashing, you will be making all sorts of mashing profits. I'm just throwing words that rhyme. I don't even care. But that's why you shouldn't care. Okay? You need to take advantage of your financial life and get a hold of real streams of income. AlgoFactory.tech, links in the description box. And with that being said, Cowboy, good morning, buddy.
Hey, I have a passion for when I cash in.
I like that. Passion for the cash in.
Got a passion for the cash in, baby. I'm good, dude. Thank you. I'm finally able to do a show this week without a higher than 100 fever. So that's good.
You're like Michael Jordan in the flu game against the Utah Jazz, where you had the 103-degree fever and you went out and scored 45 points. You're like that, bro.
Except I'm not risking, 2 basketball teams by getting them all sick. What's good is that
Were you wearing a mask when you were live?
I wear a mask in the shower, but that's, the only, I'm isolated in here, so I don't have to wear the mask. But like when I drive my car, I have 2 masks on my face and one under my pants, and then,
when I remember the time when we were living in Bizarro World. This is back in 2020 and whatnot. I remember heading out to the water park with the family. It was an indoor water park in upstate New York at that time, and seeing a kid swimming in the water park, swimming in the pool with a face mask on. This was like 2021 or 22. Like, it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. Unbelievable.
Dude, people lost their damn minds.
Yeah.
You saw the picture of the little girl that cut a hole in her mask so she could play like the saxophone.
Stupidest thing in the world. Like, people should have known it was a scam when they told you wear a mask when you're going into the restaurant, but take it off when you sit down and eating.
Yep. Or if you're protesting, the virus knows not to attack you.
Well, yeah, it's a socially conscious virus. That's, it's a social justice virus. And it's a very polite virus. It doesn't want to intrude you while you're eating your meal.
Or
it might take you out. Yeah, or burn. Yeah, it doesn't mind. Doesn't mind at all.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That time was then. We've had a little bit of a break from that time, but it's not to say it won't come back in the future. So, we're not all doom and gloom here, but really the only way that you can deal with that is by exiting, which is why we're ESW, the exit strategy world. And there are different ways to exit. You
Correct.
can exit by moving your assets into different asset classes. Let's just say you want to divest from the market that is basically run in a big way by a very small country in the Middle East. Well, you can exit that market and exit giving all of those people money by just going into precious metals. If you want to exit your country, you need like a passport and you want to go somewhere else. There's a lot of different ways to exit. We talk all about that. But we do have some other things to cover today. What do you want to talk about, V?
Well, there's a lot of things happening, my man. I mean, I'm not going to belabor the whole Epstein thing. There's 1,000,000,001 people talking about it. I'm not going to bother you guys talking about it. We could talk about the Iran thing, but I think that's been hotly covered. We've already covered it. I'm not worried about it whatsoever. It is what it is. If it happens, it happens, and we'll commentate. But there are other real events that are happening. Things while we are being distracted by Epstein files and Iran war talk and potential World War III and this, that, and the other. There are real news, there are real metrics, and there are real things that are occurring that you should be aware of. Now, one of the things that you should worry about is the Hindenburg effect. Okay, and the Hindenburg effect is a market effect that, when the market crosses the threshold, it's a warning sign. And Cowboy, you got this pulled up. Why don't you go ahead and comment on this real quick, and I'll come in on the back end.
Sure. So, I mean, to make it really simple, there is a certain alarm. It's based on metrics, and this alarm happened a few times right before the big crash in 2020. Now, depending on where you fit on the conspiracy level of things, I think it's pretty safe to say that the quote unquote, inside or right people or whatever you want to call it knew that 2020 crash was coming and they were able to position. And that's just kind of how it is. And that's fine. It's just we can be upset about it or not. But that same alarm that happened several times before that crash has happened recently, right? So it does say here, just the beginning of the article, we'll just jump right in. In early November, we sounded the alarm about a recent Hindenburg Omen. That's what it's called.
Yep.
Per the commentary summary, bottom line, market breadth is horrendous and will likely lead to a rotation favoring out-of-favor sectors and stocks. Thus, it's not surprising that Hindenburg Omen was triggered. If we continue to see more of these omens, the threat of a drawdown grows, right? So at the time, back in November, mega cap stocks were grossly outperforming the market while many sectors lagged the market. Since that Hindenburg alarm, our expectations have come to fruition. We, in fact, let me zoom this in. We have, in fact, seen a rotation favoring out-of-favor sectors and stocks. Okay, so to summarize that, at that time, Hindenburg alarm hit, Hindenburg Omen, the stocks that were doing well, money went out of that and went into out-of-favor stocks, right? Well, now it seems that there might be a rotation back or maybe just a rotation out, right? So back to the article here. The graphic below, courtesy of Simple Visor, shows the significant change in fortunes between sectors. The first column shows each sector's excess returns versus S&P 500 since Hindenburg Omen on October 29th. Second column shows the excess returns over a 50-day period preceding the alarm. Yeah. Okay.
It's pretty insanely crazy when you look at it, right? And just like I like to, simplify and say like things like Gresham's laws, money goes where it's treated well. The Hindenburg Omen, if you want to put it to you, for a lot of the people that are listening, it's like a lot of stocks are hitting all-time highs and a lot of stocks are hitting all-time lows at the same time.
Yep.
Doesn't make sense. It's not supposed to happen. It's not supposed to happen. That's the weird thing about it. And that's a major warning sign that something is really severely disjointed in the market. Now, this has happened before. It happened in right after 2008 financial collapse. It happened a few more times. And every single time, I believe, and it's my opinion, it's the greater solvency crisis rearing its ugly head. It's the liquidity crisis that is rearing its ugly head. Time and time again, you get into these liquidity crunches where the bigger players are hitting all-time high with their stocks, and other players that should be, towed along with these big, massive moves, and in a traditional sense that should happen, they're not. They're floundering. So somebody's hitting those liquidity pools and getting that vital solvency that's needed to keep their stocks going, while others are just floundering. They're collapsing right out the gate. It's a weird thing, Cowboy. It really is, man.
Well, and you really said it. It has to do with the amount of leverage and debt in the system.
Yep.
To look at this, to explain it in sort of simple terms, energy sector was doing really well before the alarm, up 24%, and then down 5% in the following days. You had the materials sector. Let me put my spectacles on here. I don't have my contacts in. Materials sector up 22, down 10% afterwards. So you have these overheated stocks, alarm hits, and then they go down. Now you have these other sectors in the bottom that were underperforming, like tech. And then right at the time that those alarms hit, money rotated in afterwards. So what's happening here is that money is identifying out of favor, moving over there and taking profit. Now, why is it that the smart money knows to take profit? Well, because they're paying attention to things like the Hindenburg, and they're ignoring things like Jim Cramer, right? So it's not really rocket science. If you are in stocks, understand the way that it works is that the smart money is going to use the 401k people and other retail investors. They're going to draw them in by going to all-time highs. They're going to cause ma and pa investor and, chud mom's basement traders to get into things at an all-time high because they think it's going to go quicker. And the news articles are going to push it. You're going to have the AI Asian guy come out, and he's going to move the needle. And they're just going to get in as many retail investors as they can before they dump on you.
Yeah.
And then you'll be left holding the bag. And while everybody else is selling the bottom on tech because tech is going down, they're panicking. All the news articles, the AI Asian guy, everybody else is really, saying terrible things about tech. You're panicking out. And you're giving all the smart money entry liquidity. You're giving them the ability to take these positions, and they need that. These large players cannot enter or exit positions without that liquidity, those dark pools that V just talked about. And you can actually see it play out. You can measure that right here. So if you're in equities, this is the kind of thing you have to watch.
Exactly. Very well put. And this is the whole thing that people are distracted by so many things that are happening in this world. They're distracted by the Lovestein files. They're distracted by the Iran-Iraq war. They're distracted by the stupid State of the Union, which I missed that broadcast, and I'm kicking myself in the head for that. They miss a lot of things. And the real things that affect you, the real things that's going to make an impact on your day-to-day is stuff like this. Because, guys, here's the thing. We have a breaking down market. And when things start to break down, the people, the normies will begin to panic. They'll begin to panic. This is the time you stay cool. Let me explain something to you. During the whole entire Mexican narco war thing that broke out for like 24 to 48 hours, one of the things that I was watching is the amount of sales, real estate transactions that were starting to happen, because you better bet your bottom dollar that when you got Puerto Vallarta and other areas that are beachfront property getting hit, the ones that are not panicking, the guys that are going in there and buying up distressed beachfront property 40, 50% below. Because now people are spooked. You have a lot of gringos that move to areas like that, and now they're spooked. They want to get the hell out because, hearing a couple of gunshots and seeing a couple of cars on fire was enough for them to get the hell out of there. And there are people that are coming in. The smart ones are buying up. Why? Because this is going to square itself out. When it squares itself out, guess what? Tourism comes back. Same thing in the market. No matter what the hell is going on in the physical economy, you got to stay ahead of it. You got to make more money. And the only thing that's making more money right now is the market. Now, you might say to yourself, well, V, got the Hindenburg issue. How do you make money on that? Click the link in the description box, and we'll show you how to make money on that. Whether it's going up, down, sideways, it's doing backflips, it's doing forward flips off a ravine. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You'll learn very quickly that chaos is your friend, folks. And that's the thing here. Chaos is your friend. Do not be dissuaded by all this stuff.
Well, you should be excited by it. It's
absolutely
the blood in the streets, right?
Yeah, it's like what John D. Rockefeller says. He goes, "I buy when there's blood in the streets." He didn't say, "I buy cat food and run to the bunker and wait for SWAT team to come through the door because of there's blood in the streets." No. Always remember this. It's not going to be a Mad Max scenario. It's not going to be the devolution of the entire society and then, oh my God, it's absolutely rioting and looting on the street every single day for the rest of your life. No. Chaos is coming. It will blow through. Order will be restored. And the thing is, you have to have a cool head to prevail. And I'll tell you right now, the thing that will function from start to finish on this whole entire thing will be the market. And I'll tell you right now, it's the only thing you have left as an American to leverage is the market. It's one of the best ways to create substantial, powerful streams of income. I don't know how many times I got to keep saying it. Chaos is opportunity, folks. Chaos is opportunity.
Yeah, things like... Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, man.
I was just say things like this Hindenburg Omen, like traders, we look at that and our mouths water. Like everybody else is afraid.
Yeah.
But this isn't what we want, up or down. We make money up or down. Now, as far as Algo Factory is concerned, it's not a get rich quick thing. Because if anybody tells you, hey, come learn my trading and you'll get rich quick, like they're a scam. But like anything else, you put in the work, and it's like buying a slot machine, or it's like going to a casino and somehow being able to rig the slot machine to win 55, 65% of the time. That's all it is. It just takes work. But you need, all you need is a market to move. And with what we have coming, like this 6 alarms from the Hindenburg Omen in the last month, that actually matches what I've seen in my algos, where I put out a couple of newsletters. I put one out every week. I put out a free newsletter. If you actually click the link in the description, you'll be not only given the algo, but I'll send you my newsletter every week. And I talk about what I think is happening in the market, the events coming. I cover it in the letter, and I even put on the week's video to cover the charts too, right? I put that in there as a link. So things like this, these alarms, it means usually volatility, and it matches what I've seen, especially in the NASDAQ, with the over-capitalized, under-realized sector of the AI market, the spinning up of fake money by Ellison and everybody else.
Yeah, and all that fraud.
It really is just fraud. Everybody wants to look at the Somalis in Minnesota and talk about their few $1 billion in fraud, but they're put to shame. The fraud that they are committing is like a pittance compared to the fraud that these Ellison types are committing. And what we can do though is we can see what that is and take advantage of it when the market reacts. And this Omen right here, it does match some of my algos for some vulnerability in the NASDAQ. Now, will it be held up? Maybe. It doesn't mean it's going to go down, but usually there will be some kind of volatility. It might be short-lived, and that's great. We love volatility, short-lived or not. So here's where it happened on the chart here in where the mouse is right there. That's like you had 3 of those alarms right there, and then you had the 2020 dump.
Yeah.
So now we've seen it. The last time we had 6 times in a month was February 2020. So the vulnerability is there. Will it happen? That remains to be seen, but at least we have indications, right?
Yeah.
So
shifting gears. I'm gonna talk about Trump putting money into fusion, bro. Let's talk about that. Then we'll swing around to Zimbabwe and the rest of Africa.
Gotcha. Here he is.
Fusion power needs to be American born. A fusion powered America would be permanently independent. Okay, this is the Gaston Institute of International Policy Council. Perhaps not since Teddy Rose have we held a president who thinks as big as Donald J. Trump. From his projection of military power that protects our national interest to his understanding of how the complex economy. I mean, this is just straight glazing. Let's just get
they're glazing.
Potatoes.
Fine.
They're glazing.
We're just reading the article. God. We're not speaking our opinion here.
No. So While scientists have been able to create fusion energy in a lab setting, much work still needs to be done to make it commercially viable for a president who has staked his legacy on American greatness. There's no more important strategic achievement than ensuring that fusion is American born. Trump has made the pursuit of energy a national priority, not for ideological reasons, but for deeply practical ones. The geopolitical stakes could not be higher, and China has dramatically increased its investments in fusion research, committing billions to state-backed programs with one goal: to beat America in delivering commercial fusion power to their national electric grid. The country that cracks fusion first will be merely solve its own energy needs. It will hold the keys to empowering our world for generations to come. It's a lot of glazing there in terms of the tech. Is fusion technology real? Yes. Is it what a lot of the pronunciators of fusion say it is? No. There's different types of fusion, right? And based on the type, you can have something that could run for very, 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 very long time and produce very, 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 very little waste. Or you have something that, works in a shorter time frame. So America, folks, let me explain something to you. I've said this before, I keep saying it. Everything that you think is industry in America is a cottage industry to finance. Fusion, in order for any sort of fusion project to go forward, it has to rely on funding. And that funding is dominated by Wall Street. Now, while an article like this would start glazing its readers into thinking, hey, you know what, this is going to be amazing, America's going to be all run on fusion, this, that, and the other. I'm going to bring it back down to earth and tell you that we do not have the type of technology, we do not have the resources, we don't have the raw materials, we don't own those supply chains, we do not own that in order to create anything remotely close. In other words, will we have fusion projects in the United States? The answer is yes. There will be fusion deployed in the United States. That's number one. Number two, that fusion will be limited in its use. And number three, it's going to be very, very difficult for the United States to scale up. Very difficult. So the answer is we're not going to beat China in fusion. We'll have fusion here. And the purpose of fusion here in America is not to drastically lower your electric bill. That's the bullshit. If you think that's going to happen, I got something. I got a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. Because Cowboy, here's the deal. How many years have they been pushing, energy efficient appliances on us? How many years has this been? Like for decades now, right?
Yeah, like 25 years.
Yeah. And how many years have they been pushing LED light bulbs and solar panels and windmills and all this green energy stuff? I mean, decades and decades, 20, 30 years at this point, right, with all this crap amalgamated together. And granted, there is some overlapping areas. But at the end of the day, has anybody's electric bill got cheaper? No. No, it hasn't. It's gotten worse.
Yep.
Right? So fusion technology will be treated in the same way that wind and solar are treated. It's going to be rolled out. It's going to be in a few select places. And what's going to happen is that private equity, Wall Street in general, is going to make sure that, they get their fair share out of it. So there's no way for us to really scale up in a meaningful, inexpensive kind of way. It'll be one of the most expensive things we do, and it could be the next boondoggle. But Wall Street is launching a bunch of fusion ETFs. And these are ETFs that are put out there by Vanguard and the like. And those ETFs will be something, and it's not investment advice, but it's something that people should talk to their financial advisor about for consideration. Because there's multiple upsides there. And it's not about, folks, like I said before, it's not about revolutionizing the country and bringing it up to speed to the, to a very high standard. Because the government of the United States doesn't care about its people. It doesn't. it's beholden to private interest. It's going to do what private interest does. And that's my take on it, Cowboy.
Yeah, I think, like you just said, you got to talk to your investment advisor. We don't dispense investment advice. We're really good at making predictions, and we talk about our own investment ideas, right? We're happy to talk about that. And so, what I would be doing is these types of things take time to roll out, but you always have, in at least the US, you have a bunch of money that gets shoved in directions that may not always be 100% legitimate and might even be like a payoff. V, do you remember Solyndra?
Oh my God. Yeah, of course.
So it was
584 million they spent on that? Or billion?
Yeah, it was hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
From memory serves. I know it wasn't over $1 billion, but hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, that's a lot of money. So basically, Obama was very instrumental in helping to stand up this company called Solyndra, and hundreds of millions of dollars, they just disappeared. I mean, our business failed. Like, I'm sure there were, mansions in Miami that got purchased, and who knows what all happened there. But long story short, if you kind of knew that was going to happen ahead of time, and you didn't know it was a scam, and you were able to get in on it early, then you made money just like everybody else who had the information first. Well, what this does, this article here talking about fusion, whether it can scale out or not, whether it's BS or not, whether we'll be able to do anything in the next 20 years or not, there will be money pushed in a direction. And if you can keep your eyes and ears open, maybe even talk to people who are in that realm. I know Velas, if he probably knows the right people, then it might be possible to keep your eye out for an IPO, perhaps if you're a sophisticated investor. And by the way, the way to become an accredited investor, you can just do it by test now. You don't have to have a certain amount of money or any of those things. You just pass a test. And if you don't want to risk on an IPO, which is always very high risk, you could just, get in on the stock early, let it IPO, see if it dumps, then buy it. But these are the ways that we profit, right? We get a little information, we follow it. And then these are the kind of opportunities where, now I would be one for a quick buck on something like this. I would not be one for it's going to change the world. But let's just say the IPO happened, stock hit the market at $8. I might just hold it until 10 or 12.
Yeah.
I might take a leveraged bet on it if that's possible. Like an options. I might get like a call option, so these are the kind of opportunities that are out there. And fusion has that holy grail legend and myth behind it. So it might be that a lot of people who see this happening, a lot of your science nerds, your Trekkies, it's a fusion, it's real, everybody invest. Hey man, upside could be tremendous. You never know. That's my opinion.
Well said. Last but not least, buddy, we have something very interesting happening in Zimbabwe, and it has to do with a rare earth or strategic metal or rare earth, which is lithium. You want to bring that up real quick?
Yes. The evil Chinese taking advantage of the Africans, right?
Let's talk about how they are doing it, Cowboy. Why don't you explain to us how these evil communist Chinese are enslaving Zimbabwe?
Yes, they are the Chinese communists who, they want to steal everybody's technology and they want to steal from everybody. They have gone in to take advantage of Zimbabwe, and they're going to rob Zimbabwe blind.
Mm-hmm.
It's so sad. What they're going to do is they've made deals in Zimbabwe, and they've actually caused Zimbabwe to strangle their most important export. Zimbabwe's going to lose so much money because they can't sell. Oops, I don't know what I just did there. They can't sell the lithium. They have massive lithium. I mean, I think it's the biggest lithium concentrate deposit in the world, if not top 3. And they make a lot of money selling lithium. And now China's gotten involved and they're not going to sell it anymore. V, isn't that terrible?
Yeah, it's terrible, man. It just shows you the level of enslavement.
The evil Chinese. Okay, obviously we're being, facetious here.
We're joking, right?
We're joking. So what's actually happening is one of the things that the U.S. makes money on is people using our dollars for their investment. So if you need any major stuff bought around the world, generally it's done so in dollars, whether it's commodities like lithium, or usually it's just commodities, things that are bought, transported, or produced goods. So dollars are still the world reserve currency, and the U.S. is able to artificially buoy the demand for dollars and keep the dollars high, and we can export our inflation onto the rest of the world. And we know this story. Well, what China has done is, and I don't mean to glaze here, but I think it's genius. They've made a deal with Zimbabwe. It's an infrastructure for resource deal where they're building infrastructure to help Zimbabwe refine lithium in their own country. So let's talk a little bit about the African model. And it's the European model for African extraction. And V, like I said, I'm going to introduce this, but you, I think, have the better handle on this. And I have heard things where this has been done by design, not by accident. What they've done with like third world countries, we did it to South America, the global South, is that they find mineral deposits. They will create companies to extract those deposits from the earth.
Yep.
They will put their own people down there, their own Uncle Toms in charge of these companies, who will, for a handsome profit, make sure that those minerals are then exported by that colonial power, whether it be the U.S. or France. France is very, very colonial. France, Britain, Netherlands, other European countries are always doing this, and this is why they have any money in the last 100 years anyway. The U.S. is in a similar position. And long story short, the country who has those resources is left high and dry. You have a few people who make money because they manage the company that extracts the minerals. They use child labor, and the money just leaves the country. Well, in this case, what China has done is they're going to build and own refineries inside of Zimbabwe.
Yep.
The metal will get extracted in Zimbabwe and will be refined in Zimbabwe. Now, what one must understand, sure, it's a Chinese-owned company, but in the end, Zimbabwe is going to have a chance to be able to profit from the own product fully refined coming out of Zimbabwe. Everything's going to stay in Zimbabwe until it's refined. And you have to understand the political power that creates. China has put a lot of trust in Zimbabwe for the concept that Zimbabwe is not going to screw them over and just kick all the Chinese out of the factories once the Zimbabweans understand how to do it. And sure, are they ever going to understand it? There's a lot of arguments there. But in this case, there is no Western country that has done it like this that I know of. All I see with Western countries is mineral extraction and financial extraction, and then and then poor people.
Yeah, the only thing the West does is resource extraction, and then have that resource extraction, prop up the financial markets. That's it. So there's no benefit. There's no benefit to the country that's being extracted, and there's no benefit to the population of the West either. So nobody wins except the 0.001% ruling oligarchs who rule over much of these Western countries. They're the only ones that are the benefactors of this. And folks, this is the kind of stuff that we should have been doing. Like in the United States, the whole model that was laid out by the founding fathers is something that the Chinese have figured out, and they're doing it very well. You know how much money could be made rather than, bombing third world countries, ruining their infrastructure, killing their people, creating global instability? You know how much more money we could be making if we actually worked in partnerships and made, built infrastructure and done deals like what China's doing all up and down Africa? And they're wondering why the African countries are picking the Chinese deal 10 out of 10 times, because our deal sucks. We don't offer nothing. That's number one. And what we do offer is slow, it's clunky, it's inefficient, and it's very expensive, and nobody wants it. So that's the situation, folks. That's the situation. I think that trend is going to continue because we're a monster that it's run its course, Anyway, that's what I have to say, Cowboy.
Yeah, I would say... I don't think there's anything else to say about it. I think that the momentum is such that in this country, in order to exit that model, when we say collapse, we don't mean Mad Max. We said that earlier, right? We don't expect a Mad Max scenario.
Correct.
I think that what's going to happen is a changeover. Just to kind of put it in a better, with better words than I would, the future economy, you talk about it being based on commodities. And I know you kind of shared this with Algo Factory like a while ago, so it's probably okay now that it's been so long to share it here. Can you give us your idea of what the future is going to be for the world economies, moving away from fiat debt?
Yeah, the insane world of central banking and fractional reserve lending and all the financial fraud and rigmarole that's in Wall Street and the City of London, that's coming to an end because nobody trusts it. The world does not trust it. The world doesn't want it. The world wants what is real. And what is real are commodities. What is real is the metal that's in the ground. What is real is something that people could touch. They're not going to take for face value, hey, you know what? Here, this stock right here is worth X, or this asset right here is worth X. It's on paper. Trust us. No, they want things that they can touch. They want things that's quantifiable. They want real mark to market. They want real market discovery. Why? Because in markets where the world is headed, having mark to market and having underlying assets bolster trade is so important because it helps them to understand real liquidity, real solvency, real market dynamics, real things that really help move an economy forward. In other words, it's grounded in reality. You cannot get involved in fake, fictitious bullshit, creating all these indexes and ETFs and all this other stuff that's based on nothing whatsoever. And that's why the world's moving to it because, physical production, physical based markets is a death blow to the suicidal, insane, speculative economies that are running rampant in the West, which only does one thing: creates the largest wealth disparity you could ever imagine. When you divorce a underlying asset from which the stock trades, and when you divorce market discovery, price discovery, all these things, you create an environment that will create a wealth disparity, number one. You create an environment in which there's a wealth extraction, and you create an environment that only the top 0.0001% of oligarchs benefit from and the people suffer from. It doesn't, you see what I'm saying? That's why the rest of the world doesn't want that. When you have a physical economy, you are able to uplift a population. You're able to bring your population up, build them up, and push them forward, and not regress them, not pull them down where we as a society today are just swirling a toilet bowl. That's the difference, folks. And that's why physical markets and physical economies are so important. And that's why people and nations want the real. And that's where we're going, Cowboy.
It is where we're going. What's your opinion on automation taking human jobs in that physical world?
I think there's going to be an amalgam of automation, and I think the planners in China are, countries that are really way ahead of us in robotics and automation. They are doing things where they're moving their population forward and filling the gap. So in other words, the area where years ago the entry-level jobs were the fry cook, the manual laborer, this and that and the other. In the future, and what they're gearing their population to be, is the entry-level jobs would be the engineer, the scientist, and other jobs that you can't automate. Certain trades that are unautomatable at this point. That's where it's going to go. But the dull mundanities of picking strawberries and stitching mass-produced sneakers, those days are over. And this way, what China is doing by removing the human element out of the entry level, the very entry level, then having their population, which is a very highly educated population, bringing them up. Now you've allowing your population to jump into economic fields, in jobs and in industries that are much more advanced, much more higher paying, while the lower level stuff is taken over by automation. You can't do that here. You can't do it in the West. It's not even in the same ballpark, right? So that's the so.
Are you telling me that a population that wants to be makeup tutorial influencers doesn't have a chance at becoming engineers? Is that what you're trying to suggest?
Okay. A population that's given over to OnlyFans girls and being influencer culture and influencer lifestyle and all this other crap, a population like that cannot progress. They will always always going to be the bullshit jobs, the influencers and whatnot, and you always have entry level jobs. Only an educated population can you hoist them and catapult them into the future, right? So when you talk about populations that are going to be prepared for a robotics future, it's going to be China, hands down. It's not going to be the United States. Our kids are just too damn dumb, not because they're dumb, but because they've been dumbed down. That's the problem. Our students are not being taught properly. Our students have lost culture. They've lost dignity. They've lost so many things. They've lost how to behave, how to talk properly. You know, they have brain rot from screen overload. They're constantly hooked on screens. They're constantly hooked on social media, and this is what affects their life. This is what prevents them from moving forward. Just like our founding fathers said, it's a republic if you can keep it. And the other aspect of it, he said, it is for what? A vigilant and religiously upright population. Because only a vigilant and religiously upright citizenry can keep the powers of government in check. Therefore, a citizenry that is highly educated, that is pushed forward into engineering, mathematics, sciences, and high technical trades, that society is going to spring forward, while robotics will fill in the gap. And when they fill in the gap, it's going to bring down the price of the item. The things that will be produced will be cheaper, and the economy of scale will be even grander and greater. What they're doing is incredible, what they're doing in China. We can't compete. We need a complete cultural and systemic overhaul, in order for us to compete one day at that level.
Like, yeah, another generation.
Exactly.
This is why the quote we have at Rogue is that the collapse is not good or bad; it's necessary, right?
Exactly.
Because that's I think the only way we will ever see an overhaul is once the system is completely dismantled. And unfortunately, in China, that dismantling manifested as the Cultural Revolution, and a lot of people died, and it was brutal. And I'm not supporting the Cultural Revolution. I'm not saying it was all, I've heard stories. I got friends who are, their parents are from there, and it was a brutal thing.
Yeah, it was the rule of the Gang of Four, and that was I think Matthew Arid gives a beautiful synopsis of that time, a really good breakdown of what really occurred there with the Gang of Four, and how when Deng Xiaoping became the prime minister or the president of China, how he had to reverse all that, and start. It was a rough time.
Yeah,
but, what's going to happen in this country with the coming economic collapse? It's going to be a rough time. It's going to be a rough time. But if you're ready for it, you'll be ready for it. You'll be prepared well in advance, and you'll be able to handle what's coming. You're not going to cower. You're not going to cower. And that's the whole entire thing, because, there are certain things that you have an exploit to. Precious metals, tangible assets, learning how the markets work, learning to trade, creating multiple streams of income. These are all things that we're going to be bringing to you guys in the next few days in Rogue, because I believe the time is short and the time is precious. It's better to be prepared and positioned in these key exit doors as the Western world shifts and the paradigm completely alters and reality snaps back into actual grounded physical reality.
Well, I think we have to look at ourselves as almost like our own diaspora in a way.
Yes.
And we're going for, Rogue is the lifeboat.
Yeah.
Because like, do I really think that trading is, sitting here trading on the computer is helping society or any of that stuff? I'm not sure that it is. I help people to gain financial independence. But what really is going to help society? For me, it's I want to do music and I want to do farming, right? Those are the things that I want to do that are like real world exercises. The trading is a way to, free up my time to do those things. So understand that in this country, we are going to have limited financial exploits. We're going to have to be on the lifeboat of getting money where we can until we can rotate back to a society that values education, such that those entry-level engineer scientist jobs are grown here at home. Because I don't think we're going to bring them here, even though everybody wants to talk about that. I think it's going to have to go through an entire evolution where our native peoples, and I just mean people who were born here, part of American culture. I'm not talking about white people specifically. I'm definitely talking about white people, but whoever, American people, white, brown, I don't care. And our people are going to have to go through whatever we have to go through until our society will value education again. And until that's done, we have to find a way to make ends meet. Now, I think markets are good because the hyper wealthy and even the intelligence agencies, my opinion and what I've heard is that they extract most of their money, not from human trafficking, although they do a lot of that shit, not from drug trafficking, even though they do a lot of that shit. They do it through the financial system. They do it through stock manipulation. You don't even need to pay senators off anymore. You just tell them what stock's going to go up. They make all the money that way. Ilhan Omar married her brother to come here, and she's worth like $30 million for what? Being a congressperson?
Yeah, her husband knows how to pick the right stocks.
Just really good at picking stocks.
He's
Same
really
as
good.
Nancy Pelosi, right?
Pelosi's the best.
Yeah.
Pelosi's
so
the best.
If that's the case, like, look, Joaquin Flores and I are doing a series. We just started the series on Tuesday. He and I have been talking about it for about a month, and it's called How the Ruling Class Understand and Use Power. And one of the parts of that series, and I don't know if you guys know much about Joaquin and his origin story, but he was a communist, like a real, actual communist back, in the day, like decades ago. Mm-hmm. And he and I are from the same area, very different pasts. But he understands the way that the ruling capital uses like Marxian ideas, even though they're not Marxists or capitalists, they're actually colonialists, and there are a few other things. But long story short, you have to understand how the top people make their money if you want to survive, because you're going to have to understand that those mechanisms will remain despite everything else. Those people make all their money with the market. The most powerful people in the world make all their money in the market. So the last thing to go is probably going to be the market. And while it might not be a noble thing to sit here, click buttons, and trade, you will survive if you know what you're doing.
Yeah. Yep. Very well said. And with that being said, buddy. Yeah. And with that being said, we're at the end of the show. We thank all you guys for checking in with us. Again, check us out, ESW Rogue News. And check out our sponsor, AlgoFactory.tech. Learn to trade like a hedge fund pro. And keep it locked and loaded right here, man. We're going to be putting forth some incredible solutions for all of you guys. And with that, Cowboy, take it away, buddy.